Hey everybody, it's Chris, and today we'll be looking at the second of the 2020 Trilogy Challenge discs. Today we'll be looking at the Dynamic Discs Bounty, which is the mid-range for this year, and you get it both in the Lucid and in the Fusion in this video. You might see a little more of the Fusion. That's purely because in the comparison videos to the other discs, the flight lines coming out were a little bit closer, so that gave me an easier comparison. But they actually flew really similarly. If I released them on the same angles, they were going to pop up the same way, etc. Straight out of the box and after hitting dozens of trees, so that's good to know, right? Now, comparison discs. I did use a couple. First up, I used the most understable disc I have, the Patrol, and you're going to see the Bounty is not that understable. The Patrol is super flippy, it just wants to go right. The Bounty is more of a controlled turn, and it could even come back if you don't turn it enough. I shouldn't say turn enough, if you don't put a lot of turn on it. And the other disc is the Fuse. It's a well-known understable control disc from Latitude 64, and I think that comparison was actually the closest. In fact, in my head, the Bounty was like the Fuse's little brother. The wing isn't quite as wide, it's not quite as tall of a disc, but they both feel a little bit taller in the hand, and they both have similar flight characteristics. So like I said, I was comparing to like the little brother. Not quite as fast, not quite as tall, but similar results. Family, you know. The other comparison I had, and stick with me on this analogy, is it reminded me a lot of the Suspect. Not flight-wise. Obviously the Suspect is pretty overstable, the Bounty is pretty understable, but with the speed of the disc, it reminded me of either a really slow mid or a really fast approach disc. So whereas the Suspect is not going to be as fast as, like, say, a Verdict, the Bounty is not going to be as fast as, say, the Fuse. You might still get really good results out of it. In fact, I did distance-wise. I was putting it out near the Fuse regularly, but it wasn't quite as fast, and so it just reminded me of this, like, a slower version of mids, which I think fit a lot of people's games well, so you might be looking for it that way. But overall, I found it to be a very controllable, slightly understable disc. You could put it on a lot of lines. In fact, you're going to see me throw hyzers with it in the woods, and it holds well. And I could hyzer flip it and get it to fade out at the end, even in a wind, which you get to see. But it is understable, very controllable. It could be a great woods game, especially if you like a taller style of mid. This one should fit you well. I said in my Instagram post I think it's going to be really popular, and I think that's because it's a type of disc that people love to throw in the woods. So if the Fuse is maybe a little bit fast or a little bit too tall for your hand, this could be a great fit. I don't know what else to say, so I'm going to go with if you have any questions or comments, please put them below so we can dialogue, so I can get back to you. Otherwise, I'll go to the clips and do some commentary over the top of that. As always, thanks for watching. Here is that wing comparison I promised. Fuse on the left, Bounty on the right. You can see the height difference as well as the wing shape difference, but they do feel pretty similar in the hand. Here's a lower power throw, 60-70%, a little bit of tilt. You can see it holds that line before fading out just a touch. Here's a higher power, like I just hit on this one pretty hard, fairly flat release. You can see it just drifts right beautifully before coming down a soft landing. And then here's a nice hyzer flip. There was even a touch of headwind on this one, so this flight was actually kind of surprising to me. I really was very pleased with it. It went almost 300 feet. Alright, so into the woods. Here's first up against the Patrol. You're going to see fairly similar releases. The Bounty is going to take that nice gradual turn right down the center of the fairway before fading out just a touch, whereas the Patrol turns hard right and actually hits a tree, ends up getting kicked down. Here's another comparison, a shorter throw. You can see I give much more turn, more of an anhyzer release to the Bounty on this one, whereas the Patrol just turns right naturally. They actually end up right next to each other, even on those different release angles. Now this one was fun. This is my first time on this one, and I thought I'm just going to tilt it a little bit, try to hit that tree, which I did. That's why I'm laughing. And then I thought, okay, I'll just adjust a little bit with the Fusion. You can see it just breaks right, ends up right next to the pin. And then I threw it again to compare it to the Patrol. So this is actually a separate shot, but again, just give it some height with a little bit of turn. It drifts right and ends up just right of the pin, whereas the Patrol on a slightly flatter release breaks right and ends up like 45 feet to the right of the pin. Here's one of those promised hyzers, just a little bit of hyzer angle, not too much power. It pops up a little bit before hyzering out, ends left of the pin, so it holds that line beautifully. Here's a comparison to the Fuse. See, both are pretty tall, both are turning down the gut. The Fuse ends up within 5 feet of the pin, the Bounty ends up just a little bit more right than that, but pretty similar flight overall. Because I have been using my forehand more, I had to throw this nice touch forehand with it. I did hit that tree at the end, but overall I actually had the flight that I wanted. I was really pleased. And then back to hole one on a separate day, I threw the shot a little bit too sharp and hit that tree, and so then I threw the other Bounty and the Fuse, and you're going to see they both hit the exact same tree in almost the exact same spot. So I gave them the Breakfast Club salute and said, "Don't forget about me, tree," and then I moved down to hole 2. And here is hole 2 at Lapping Park. Just that gentle turn down the tunnel that you saw before where I was joking about hitting a tree. You can see the fuse is on a lower line and the bounty is on a little bit higher line, but both of them are going to drift back, end up just past the pin. Fuse went a little bit farther on that lower power line. Here's another one of those gentle right turns on the course. You just need to follow the break of the fairway, and then if you give the disc enough height, like I did with the bounty, it should be able to stall and come back toward the pin, which the bounty did. It just ended up a little bit left of it, whereas the fuse punched past it. That was a height thing. The flights were both very similar. If I'd given the fuse more height, it would have been good. Here's a lower power shot, about 230. You can see if I'd started it more right, it would have faded back to the pin. I just missed the line on that one. And here's a little bit harder of a throw, flatter of a throw. The bounty's just going to hold that right turn the entire way, end up about 25 feet right, and the fuse hits a tree. Otherwise I think it would have been a little bit closer on a straighter line. Overall, and in review, the bounty is this year's Trilogy Challenge Midrange from Dynamic Discs. It is a very neutral to slightly understable disc that I think a lot of people are going to like throwing in the woods. If you enjoyed this review or if you liked it, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, share it, or even subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you for watching.